Hey there! I was lent this pen by Joost Appelboom. This is a Parker 51, the new Parker 51. And I have already reviewed a Parker 51, the new iteration, but this is a different finish. And I thought I would kind of update my views. I played around with it, and I just wanted to see if my opinion might have changed vis-a-vis my original review of this newest incarnation of the Parker 51. It hasn't. I will cover the parts of the pen, I will do a writing sample, and I will tell you what I like and what I don't like about this pen. Let's do it. Okay, let's talk about the Parker 51. This is the Parker 51 Plum gold trim. This is a medium nib, 18 karat gold. Comes in a cardboard outer sleeve and then Parker box, established 1888. There is a black as well as a blue Parker cartridge in the box. And there is, of course, a pen, and that pen looks like this. Here we go with the pen, and here is that pen right next to a Pilot Metropolitan. Almost the same size, which is interesting. Let's cover, I say this as if it means anything, which is interesting. I mean, they're just the same size pretty much. Let's look at the parts of this pen. Here we have this nice little diamond, and which you're not supposed to call a diamond, I know that, but I'm just calling it what people traditionally call it. We have the arrow clip, and we have this gold colored cap. It says Parker, has the Parker logo, and it has France and this year code on it, which is always fun. You can look up when your pen was made. We have the plum colored barrel, which I think is quite nice. The pen now unscrews, and then we have this section, the very iconic Parker section. I have the feeling this nose cone sticks out farther than it did on the original Parkers, but it's been a while that I've seen an original Parker, so I could be wrong. What we do know is that this is basically a jotter nib, albeit a gold one. Little feed, we have the section which kind of tapers down, and then we have this little gold ring, and we have the filling system, which is a standard Parker converter. Could you eyedropper it? Because someone's going to ask. Looking by this barrel, yes, but this is metal. I'm not sure I would do that. Okay, we have the pen. We have this pen, and it posts very comfortably, just like a regular 51 would. And we have the clip, which is nice and springy, but not too loose so that it will easily bend out of shape. Okay, let's have a look at how the pen writes. We have the Parker 51 new reincarnation. We have a medium 18K gold nib, and we have Waterman, I didn't have any quink here, blue black ink. So the 51, I didn't really go into detail on the history of the pen, but we know it's a classic pen, right? And in the other review I've done of the other, I think that it has something like 2020 or 2021 relaunch in the name. I go a bit more into detail. I didn't want to repeat myself and bore you to death, but I do feel that I should say a little bit. So the Parker 51, a classic pen that's been around for, actually hasn't been around for a long time, but that was very popular, that was kind of timeless in its design when it was released, and that is very, very collectible, remains very collectible. And Parker decided they needed to relaunch this classic, and then instead they came up with this. Okay, writing. The writing, I will say, is very pleasant. It's a very pleasant nib, very smooth, works very, very nicely, and I will say that really is a pleasure to use. Fast writing was a bit of a skip there at the start. Could have been me. But overall, it seems to keep up very well with the ink. So there is, with the writing speed. It's a relatively wet writer, I found. The nib is definitely round and is not incredibly expressive. I mean, it is not sold as a flex nib. Always be very careful when you do this. You can squeeze out a little bit of line variation if you absolutely want to. Reverse writing, for those who enjoy such a thing, becomes very, very scratchy. I can feel the nib digging into the paper, and you also of course have to deal with that nose cone, so I probably would not recommend that. Having said that, that is a very quick overview of the 51. Why don't we talk about what I like and what I don't like? I mean, it does look like a 51, right? We have to give it that. And in my mind, most importantly, it writes very nicely. So no matter how we feel about this relaunch, I can't deny that it writes very, very nicely. What do I like? What do I not like? Excuse me, about the Parker 51, the, what was it, 2021 incarnation, I think, or was it 2020? I forget. Anyway, this new incarnation. It's a, and I know there is a year code, I just haven't bothered to look it up. Anyway, it's a Parker 51, and I will say a few things about it. It's basically a jotter nib that has been put in. It's no longer the actual 51 nib, and that I think has cheapened the whole pen. Now, in this case, it's an 18K nib, and I will say it writes very nicely. So I'm not saying it's a terrible pen, I just don't like it. And the reason I don't particularly like it is that it feels to me like the Parker 51 Classic, which is a classic I don't care for, but that's my opinion. It doesn't matter. What matters is that it is a classic, a timeless pen that's still very collectible today. Has been relaunched in what I consider to be a cheapened version. The steel nib version, which is just a jotter nib. The gold version, which is a gold jotter nib. It just feels less attractive to me than the original 51. The screw-on cap feels a little different. This metal ring that I do believe was on certain 51s, I don't care for it particularly. And of course, the filling system is now just a regular Parker cartridge converter, whereas the other 51s were aromatic or were, you had little vacuumatic converters, sorry. So the whole thing feels like it has been cheapened to me. And I'm not exactly allowed to say that because I nearly get lynched every time I say something like this, but I just don't really care. This is my opinion, and the point of these videos is that I give an opinion on pens. So I welcome everyone to disagree with this opinion. I just don't fully see it. Now, what I will say is, I do think it's pretty. This one in particular, the Plum, and I don't know how well the camera picks it up because I think this looks like a very dark, maybe like a black, but it is actually, Plum is the correct term. It's a very deep purple, and that with the gold cap works well. So it's a good writer. I just don't find it a 51. I find it a somewhat gutted 51 with the changes that have been made to it that I think were unnecessary changes. The nib, the filling system, these kinds of things in my mind have cheapened it. Having said that, it writes well, and for Parker 51 collectors it's a wonderful pen, and if you want to buy it you absolutely should. There we have it. I hope this was useful. A very kind thank you to Joost for lending me this pen, and I'll gladly see you later. Bye bye.